Good people, what's going on? Welcome to episode 100 of the Dome
Bro.
Podcast, man. 100. And look, today, special guest, man, Grammy Award winner, MC, producer, songwriter. Let me say that again. Songwriter, DJ, one of the founder members of the legendary Arrested Development, my man, my brother, Speech, man. How you doing, man?
Doing good, Tony. Congratulations, man. 100th episode. That's dope.
Man,
Congratulations, man.
thanks, man. Time flies when you're having fun, man. Just loving this
Thanks.
culture that we embrace, man. But let me
Yeah.
go into. I remember a few months ago, I caught the video you guys on Drink Champs,
Yeah. Drink champs.
and
Yeah. With Nori and
and
DJ FM.
yeah. So shout out to them, man. Was that
Shout out.
before or after you guys did y'all tour?
Well, that's we stay on tour. So let me just say that.
Right,
Like,
right, right, right.
so it's hard to determine if it was before or after because it was sort of in the middle. What we did
So
is
yeah.
when we've been trying to chop it up with them for a while. So us and DJ F in particular, we were
Mhm.
talking back and forth, and then trying to figure out a date where it all made sense for them and for us. And then we found a date. And what I did is I contacted my manager, Joe Lamont, and I said, yo,
Mhm.
why don't we make a show out of this? Meaning, we go to Miami because that's where they film, and actually book a show. Like, let's find a club where we could do an actual concert, and
Right.
then that way we're getting paid while we go down there, and we get to do the show. So we did that. We worked it out. We had a show earlier. Um, well, we had a sound check. Then we did
Mhm.
their show, and then we did our actual concert later that night. So it was dope.
That was smart.
His concert was incredible. We had a great time. It was really, really nice. Yeah.
Nah, that was good. That was a good idea, man. And one thing about that is when you guys, because you guys been doing music for decades, and a lot of people don't
Decades.
understand legacy acts. When you make music that's timeless, you
Yeah.
tour forever. Same way the Motown guys in the early, 80s and rock and all these guys still tour. So the fact that you guys still on tour is a beautiful thing because you made timeless music. And before we started recording, you were saying you was recently on tour with Kane and a few other people.
Yeah. So we're on what I call what the group and I call Legacy Emotion Tour. And with that, we just did a show with because me and you were chopping it up about Kane. And Big Daddy Kane, we did a show with him, MC Light, EPMD, Slick Rick, and Dougie Fresh,
Whoa.
and of course Arrested Development. We did a show in Connecticut, and that was only about, I'm gonna say, 3 days ago. So we
Okay.
just
Wow.
rocked. Yeah, we just rocked with them just a second ago. So yeah, Legacy Emotion Tour, Arrested Development, and yeah, it's been incredible, bro. I
How
mean,
did that?
incredible.
How did that come about? That particular
You know,
lineup.
so that particular lineup is uh, a sort of a series called Masters of the Mic, and we've
Okay.
done a lot of these. We did it. Sometimes we'll interchange one group with like maybe Search from Third Base or
Right.
Tretch from Naughty. Um, so we'll switch it up, but then it's usually MC Light, us, Kane, and Slick Rick. Those are usually sort of the foundational people that's rocking with it. And yeah, that's just been one of those sort of like paying homage to a
Yeah.
lot of the groups from different areas that really contributed to the foundations of what we love about hip hop. And so it's a beautiful thing, packed out. Usually
Yeah.
about 5,000 people or more, and
Yeah.
it just feels great, man. Just to sort of be reminded of those foundational years. You know what I mean? It's incredible. And then I mean, not to mention, I just did a show. We just did a show with Busta Rhymes as well. So him and Spliff Star, we
Okay.
were just with them about maybe 6 days ago or so. So yeah, we've been hitting the road, just doing our thing. You know what I mean?
Man, that's dope. So when was the last time you guys was overseas?
Um, I want to say probably January. Well, like or late
Yeah.
December and January. We were in Japan. We
See,
usually.
yeah.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
No. Please continue, please.
Yeah, we usually do Japan once a year.
Okay.
Japan is a major market for us, and they've been so in love with us and us in love with them since 1994 is our first time
Wow.
going to Japan. And I fell in love with that place and the people from back then. And they are into hip hop, bro. They love the music. They speak a totally different language, but they study the bars, they study the music, but they also love melody. And so
Yeah.
because they don't understand the language to the same extent as someone that's born in an English country,
Hmm.
um, they latch on to the beats and the melody first. And so acts like Arrested Development, who, I have that melodic rhyme style,
Right. Right.
um, that resonates with them in a certain way and it connects with them. And then they study the lyrics. Like they'll go
Hmm.
and translate and look up what you're
Right.
saying. And then, man, they're very studious people. Like they're amazing people to perform for.
That's dope. Now I'll be in me and the family. We'll be in Tokyo in 2 weeks from now and Osaka. So that's pretty dope for you saying that, man.
Yeah, man. That's
So
two great places. Got soul. Osaka's got soul. Tokyo is amazing
uh
as well. Tokyo is sort of
right.
like, if I had to compare, I would say Tokyo is sort of like LA. And
Okay.
and then I would say Osaka is sort of like Oakland. You know what I'm saying? Like
Right.
if
No, I
I had
feel you.
to,
I get it.
yeah, if
I
I had to
get it.
compare it, you know what I'm saying? Yeah.
No, no, I know exactly what you mean. It's dope hearing that because what a lot of people don't understand is a lot of acts they go overseas and get a lot of love, man, because hip hop is embraced a lot in Asia and in Europe, man. And you might think
Definitely.
someone out here who might be independent now, underground, whatever that means, they go over there, man. They packing out, little venues and they got lines down the
Facts.
street and
Facts.
they buying merch. I mean, you live that, you know what I'm saying? So you know
That's
exactly what I'm
right.
talking about. So it's always good to hear about the groups that get that experience and get that love outside the states as well.
It is. And I'll tell you another thing for a lot of the up and coming artists. I know a lot of up and coming artists that have never made it in the States, but
Mm-hmm.
they will go overseas to Brazil. They may have to figure out a way to get there themselves.
Mm-hmm.
They may not make a ton of money as far as getting paid to perform, but they can sell their merchandise. They can experience the culture. They can experience the world and build a fan base. One of my brothers named Twan Mack, who used to
Okay.
tour with Arrested Development as one of our brothers. He was never in the group, but he is one of my brothers from Milwaukee, which is where I'm from originally.
Mm-hmm.
And he used to pay for his way to get on our tour, but he'd open up for us and he would, sell his own merch,
Right.
create a fan base, get email addresses, and create a business where he could go back there again and perform a small club. But find a way to tour. Another brother named Jahi Torman out of the
Mm-hmm.
Public Enemy camp, he did the same thing. Another brother named Jaha, who's a R&B slash hip hop artist, he
Mm-hmm.
did the same thing. Go to Brazil. Another brother named Kamanzi from Milwaukee used to tour with Africa Bambaataa,
Mm-hmm.
and same difference. Another brother named Strick who's with it was with Master Ace. So like these brothers I know, and these brothers never had hit records on their own accord, but they made the world their playing stage. So a lot of these independent artists don't just keep it in America. Try to see how you can make moves in other continents, other countries, because there is money to be made and fans to be had and a career
Like
to be had.
like you said, creating a fan base open the doors for all those other business adventures because you can sell merch, you can sell other items and things like because
That's
you got
exactly
even
right.
even if, even if you got 100,000 fans around the world, look at what that can do for your life. You know what
That's
I mean?
exactly right. It could change your life. It could change
It
your
can change.
life.
So look, Milwaukee was funny. Milwaukee to Ripley, Tennessee. You had some
Yeah.
upbringing there. How did that happen? Did you have family? You grew up in Milwaukee, but you also had
Yeah.
family in Tennessee. How did that work?
Yeah. So my on my father's side, his mother is born and raised in Tennessee, a small
Okay.
town um, called Blimp, Tennessee. It's super small. I mean, it probably only
Okay.
has like 1,000 people in it, but
Right.
that's where my father's mother was raised. She was raising him during the Jim Crow era. And so
Right.
she sent him, like a lot of Black families who were just being terrorized and abused under Jim Crow in the South, they
Right.
sent their families. It literally is called the large, it's called the Black Migration, which happened in the 60s.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm actually in the 40s and 50s,
Right. Right. Right.
where most of the blacks that lived down south would end up going up north to the
Right.
Midwest, to the West Coast, so to New York. A lot of people that claim that they're from New York or claim that they're from this or that
Right. Right.
probably
Right.
had ancestors that are from the South, but they had to send their people away in order to escape
Oh, they absolutely
the
had them in the South.
so my family migrated from Tennessee to Milwaukee, and I was born there, but I spent all my summers in Tennessee for quite a long time in my childhood. And so my with my grandmother, and those were my most formative years, man. So I
Hmm.
really learned a lot about life, about you know nature, about self-determination. I learned a
So,
lot being,
so was Tennessee where you kind of was the roots for like the music and the I guess the energy behind like writing a song like Tennessee, right? I mean,
yeah.
that's you spend some important years that obviously because you wrote that classic song. But I'm saying was that some of the motivation for that as well, or
It was, bro. In fact, I'll be honest, growing up in Tennessee, very rural town, it was the motivation for Arrested Development's whole vibe. You know what I'm saying? Like our
right,
whole, if you look at our old videos, we're in the rural South, we got on
right?
a
I
certain type
remember.
of clothing, certain type of vibe. And, it's the dirty South before the term dirty South was created,
It
right? So it was
absolutely
like
was.
that kind of thing. And being in Tennessee is what made that stuff come to fruition. You know what I mean? So yeah, it was definitely. And then the reason I even wrote the song Tennessee
Hmm.
was because when my grandmother passed, which she meant the
Hmm.
world to me,
Right.
um, we all went to her funeral, me, my brother, my mother, my father. And my brother then passed the same
Uh,
week.
what?
And yeah, so
Wow.
my grandmother passed of a heart attack, and my brother passed of an asthma attack. And
Mm,
so, the last place I saw my grandmother and my brother was in Tennessee at the funeral. So
right.
I wrote that song. And a lot of people, because the song is so, it has an upbeat energy to it and a hopeful energy to it, I think. But
Right.
a lot of people miss the words because I say in the
Right.
song, my grandma passed, my brother's
Yep.
gone. I never at once felt so alone. So I mean, I'm talking about the truth of what
And it's funny you
brought
saying
that
that now
song
because
about.
now I'm remembering the lyrics because you do just
Yep.
feel the vibe of the song as opposed to the depth of what you was actually going through at that time, man. But now that you're saying reciting them back, I'm like, man, he did say that. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
so when you left there and got to Atlanta, now you had a rap group before Arrested Development, though, right? Attack or something like that.
That's right. Attack. And Attack was me. It was in Milwaukee. It was me,
Yeah.
TA Wiz, and a brother named at the time Special K. And Special K is now a brother named DJ Kimmett, who's a famous DJ in Atlanta and
Hmm.
also a famous house music producer. But so me, Special K, and TA Wiz was Attack, and that was before Arrested Development.
Right.
And we had regional success in Milwaukee, like in the Midwest. We went to Detroit to hook up with Juan Atkins. You know the infamous Juan Atkins. He was um, would say the godfather or innovator of techno
Hmm.
like music. Like Planet Rock type stuff and all
Right.
of
Right. No
that.
doubt.
Yeah, so Juan Atkins, we met up with him back in these days. We had a funny story with the group Attack. We was trying to get on, and
Uh-huh.
so we went to Detroit, and we had this ghetto promoter promote us, and we opened up for Fresh Prince and DJ Jazzy Jeff,
Oh, word. Okay.
and it turned out not to be them because back in the days they didn't have that exactly. They didn't have pictures of who
Right.
was. A lot of times it was just those singles, those 12-inch singles, and just had the hole in the middle of the vinyl,
Yeah.
and you never knew who the group was. So we thought we was performing with DJ Jazzy
Five
Jeff and Fresh
heartbeats.
Prince. Exactly right, bro. So we found out later that it was all false. They just it was a hustle. So it's one of those things, man. But it was packed in the club because nobody knew who Fresh Prince and Jazzy Jeff looked like anyway.
Right.
So, it was funny. It was just one of those, industry experiences, one of
Yeah.
many. Yeah.
Yeah. So after Attack, man, obviously you moved when you got down to Atlanta, man. You was at the Art Institute.
Art Institute of Atlanta is where I went to school. I left Milwaukee the day I graduated from high
Okay.
school in 1987. I immediately moved that day, the next day to Atlanta, and I went to the Art Institute of Atlanta. So yeah, that's where I started my school in
So,
Atlanta.
once you got down there, how many years did it take for you and the guys to get Arrested Development going? Was that like something immediate, man, or did you start just performing down there, or just meeting people in the hip hop social spots or anything? Or how did that come about?
The first day that I was in school, like that classes actually started, I posted a flyer on, you know how those colleges will have those little boards that you put the little
No doubt.
tax and you put your flyers on. I put one up saying I'm wanting to start a group, and I said I'm looking for a DJ. Now I was a DJ at the
Right, I
time,
know, yeah.
and that's how I used to, that was how I made my money during high school, was DJing. But I was an MC and I used to be called DJ Peach. And then I came to Atlanta and I said, you know what, I'm rhyming now. I want to be named Speech. I just put an S in front of Peach and
Okay.
became Speech. And now I'm looking for a DJ. And a dude named Tim Barnwell was looking at the flyer intently. And I was like, yo, my name's Speech, blah, blah, blah. And that headliner, it ended up being Headliner, who was the first
Right,
person I brought into my group. And it started from there. And then we just started doing shows, what we call the Chitlin Circuit in Atlanta. And
right,
it's
no
like,
doubt. That's the
some of the
grinding,
smaller
grinding.
clubs, exactly, grinding, just getting our name out there. It was incredible, incredible.
So let me ask you this: from Attack to Arrested Development, I know you was rhyming and writing, but were you already producing, also making beats and things of that nature?
Yeah, I was a producer very much so. Like
Right.
in Milwaukee, even I produced all the Attack stuff. I
Okay.
produced all
Okay.
the Arrested Development stuff in
I
Atlanta.
know. I
But then I also produced dudes like, like Strick might be known to a lot of hip hop heads with Master Ace.
right.
But I produced Strick before he blew up with Master Ace. I produced a lot of other cats that people may or may not know, on the nationwide and worldwide hip hop scene. But yeah, so definitely a producer, DJ, that's my beginnings.
You know what, Speech? I don't think, and maybe I was ignorant to this way back in the early '90s when you guys dropped, but I don't think a lot of people knew that you made all those, a lot of beats and production. You know what I mean? Because you're the front
Yeah,
man, you're rhyming, you're singing, you're doing all of this. And I think sometimes when you see a group that size at the time when you guys initially came out, and you see like the lead person, you don't think that lead person is making the beats also. You know,
exactly. That's a uh sort of a pathway in hip hop that a lot of people don't realize. Like me and Pos are cool, and we was at the airport in LA once, and
mhm.
we were talking about the fact that because he made a lot of the beats as well for De La, a lot of the stuff that we
I
all
didn't know that.
celebrate, he made the beats for, and it's like,
Wow.
of course, Q-Tip. We know Q-Tip is a
Yeah,
producer,
right.
but Q-Tip being a lead vocalist and and to some extent or another a leader of his group, but making a lot of the beats for the group. Same with me with Arrested Development, same with Large Professor. It's a
Right.
lot like that pathway is something that a lot of people don't realize that a lot of cats was doing that because, of course, J. Cole is known for that nowadays.
Yeah,
Um,
KRS One was
KRS
produced like
One
by
was
all
making a
means
lot of
and
his beats.
entertainment,
Yep.
all that stuff. Yeah.
Exactly. Yep. It's a pathway that a lot of people do because, sometimes MCs, if we do have the talent of producing, um, a lot of times we can't find somebody that's going to create that soundscape that really makes us open up. It makes us do the
Yeah.
best work that we can do, and so we do it ourselves.
So let me ask you this: with your production style with Arrested Development, and just in general, who were some of the producers? It ain't even got to be hip hop producers, but who were some of the producers growing up, inspiring you, and you studied their process of making beats, so they samples, and was who comes to mind for you?
There's a few people. DJ Premier is somebody that I definitely, get a lot of inspiration from. The Bomb Squad is somebody that I've
Yeah.
been deeply inspired by. Prince Paul and Pasta News, of course, Q-Tip, with what he's done with Tribe. Um, those are some people that come to mind right off the bat that like really moved me producing wise. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah, no doubt. And those are all obviously legends in the game. And leading up to Arrested Development debut, what was you guys' thought process like, direction in terms of like, okay, this is the type of subject matter, the type of production we want to do. We know it's going to kind of be a little different than kind of what's popular right now around 91, 92. Like, what was your mentality going into that obviously legendary, what ended up being a legendary debut album, and you can't never project that? You never know what an album gonna do. But what was your mentality going into making that album, man?
Yeah, so I'll give you a quick backstory because
Oh, no doubt, please.
my mother owns the largest black newspaper in Wisconsin. It's called the Milwaukee Community Journal. It's going on 50 years this year. And
Wow.
and my father was one of the most successful black entrepreneurs in Milwaukee history. And so
Wow.
I came from a family that were hard in civil rights, like they was hardcore into that.
Right.
They was hardcore into black community activism, hardcore into hiring black people, empowering black people. So I was raised
Mm,
in that kind of household.
makes
So
sense.
one of the thing, and for those that don't know a lot about Milwaukee, Milwaukee was rated the hardest place to grow up as a black person in the United States for many years in a row. And then
Wow.
also Milwaukee has an extremely obvious disparity between black and white success or riches, I should say.
Right.
And so it's a very the disparities are very clear in Milwaukee. And so
Hmm.
growing up in that world made me want to create a group that was fighting against arrested development. No pun intended.
Ah,
So that's why we
right.
came with the name Arrested Development.
Because I was gonna
We
ask
wanted
you
to,
that, man. Makes sense.
yeah, we wanted to fight against the state of arrested development. That
Mm,
really slavery started that state of arrested development for us. Slavery and all that would ensue afterwards, from the Jim Crow era to you know all of the numerous ways of oppression. So that's what our main focus was. That was my main focus, and of course, I found group members that would join me on that
right.
mission. Razadan, Ishi, Baba
Hmm.
OJ, who was an elder of mine from
Right.
Milwaukee, who
Okay.
was in the group. Razadan, I think I said that already. Early Tari. So yeah, that became our mantra.
And you named it. Is it 3 years, 5 months, 2 days in the life of? Like, where did you come with that name, man?
Yeah, so I mean,
What's the what's the what's the story behind that?
back in those days, getting a record deal was pretty important. Nowadays it's different. We have so many means to release music. You might not even need a label now. But back in those days, to get music out to the world, it was best that you have some kind of label. We were really trying to get a record deal. And so when we formed the group, we started counting the days. Once we started shopping, we
Hmm.
was counting the days. And when we finally got a single deal, we stopped the counter. And that was 3 years, 5 months, 2 days. And that's when we decided to name the album that, as like, a moniker of how long it took us to get on
Well,
with a
okay.
deal.
That's
Yeah.
pretty unique, man. I don't think I ever
Yeah.
heard somebody name album based on that. But
Yep. In the
now
life of,
Tennessee,
yep.
Tennessee was the first single, right?
It was. Now, it was the last song recorded, but the first single that we released. We were done with the whole album. And then I told you my grandmother and brother passed, and I wrote Tennessee after that. And I was so emotional
You're right.
that they wanted to release Mr. Wendell as the first single with a B-side of Natural, which was on
Okay.
the album. And I was like, yo, I wrote this song called Tennessee. To me, it's a better song, and I feel like we need to release this first. And I told the label I really felt strongly about this, and they knew about me losing my brother and my grandmother.
Yeah.
So they entertained it, and we shot the music video. They loved the video. And it's so funny because at the time that we were releasing, at the time we finished the music video, the whole label went through a reshuffling, and
Hmm.
they dropped a lot of their artists,
Right.
and they saw our music video and said, let's not drop this group. Let's see what this group can do.
Mm.
And of course, we ended up selling 4 million albums in the
I
States
know.
alone.
I
We sold
know.
another million outside of the States. So, that was obviously a good decision for them to
It won
keep
a
us.
Grammy as well, right?
2 Grammys. We won two
That's what I
Grammys for
thought too.
Best New Artist and Best Rap Single. Yeah, in 1993, I think it was.
Now Tennessee ended up making it to the Rock Hall of Fame, didn't it?
Tennessee is one of the 500 top Rock and Roll Hall of Fame songs ever written. Yeah, they awarded my song that. Yeah.
Man, that's awesome. So after Tennessee, was it People Every Day coming up next?
Yep, we released People Every Day second. It sure did. And then that one was, for those that have the album, there was a whole nother version. It was slower, it was non-melodic as far as my rhyme style. And
Yeah, the
that
video version
was
different.
the video version is different. And that's
Yep.
because I really was wanting to start a new trend with the melodic rap style because nobody was
Yeah,
doing that. A lot of people think that maybe that's been around forever. There has been hip hop artists that will include some melodics in their rhymes at times,
right.
but there was no hip hop artist that was actually spitting whole verses in a melodic style that I know of, at least at that time.
Hmm.
Um, Maybe there's some that I just wasn't aware of, but when I did it on Tennessee, I was like, this is so unique. I wanted to continue that tradition and put out people every day with a melodic style, and that's when I
Man,
did the whole,
y'all
you
change the
know,
game with that people every day, man.
exactly. That dropped,
Y'all
and that
change.
was just explosive, bro. It still is. I mean, it still
Oh, absolutely.
ignites
I
the
mean,
dance floor to this day.
absolutely, man. On the dance floor, every type of club, man. Old school
Yep.
sets, of course.
Yep.
Cookouts, picnics, family
Yep.
reunions for our
Family
culture.
reunions.
It's a cultural changing song like Will Smith's "Summertime." You know what I mean?
Yep.
It's just that
Facts.
big. But when y'all was living it, when you was living it at that time, did you know what you had on your hands?
You know what's funny? Yes and no. I knew that the remix was dope. I knew that it was a summer
Yeah.
anthem because it's funny. I heard that sample because I sampled Bob James,
Uh
and
huh.
I heard somebody was playing Bob James in their car, like across the street. And I heard it and I said, damn, that is the perfect loop. And as a producer, I went right
Yeah.
back to my crib. I borrowed my brother's MPC. He had an
Yeah.
MPC 60. I borrowed it and said, let me use it for an hour or two. Made the beat, put the sample in, and I said, this feels so perfect. And
Yeah.
put the whole whoa, yeah, and all of
Yep.
that on there and just
You
freaked it. And
spiced it
that
up.
it became an anthem. It became an anthem.
And Window was the third single. And was that the final single for the debut?
Final single for, well, not really. We actually did two more singles. We did
Okay.
Fishing for Religion and
Hmm.
we did Natural,
Yeah.
but those were the hit singles like off that first album. And then we
Right.
released Revolution, which was with Spike Lee on the X soundtrack, and then that
Yeah, I
became a
remember.
hit too. Yeah, that became a hit too. Yeah.
How did that happen with the spike with the soundtrack?
So Spike Lee, he's one of my favorite directors ever, and I wrote him a letter 2 years prior to ever working with him. This is before the group
Okay.
ever got a deal, and he never wrote back. But I wrote him because I wanted to work with him, and I was at a club at Sweet Jane's in New York, which we were just in New York 2 days ago. I
Hmm.
was at a club called Sweet Jane's, and he was backstage, came to our dressing room, and approached us and was like, "Yo, I would like y'all to do this, some music with me." And we chopped it up
Right.
and we ended up doing the Malcolm X soundtrack, which was us, Aretha Franklin, which was incredible, and of
Right.
course a lot of amazing, absolutely top-notch jazz artists. So yeah, it was amazing.
So during that time, before y'all saw my album and everything like that, people started calling you guys like alternative rap group.
Yeah,
But for me, I didn't really look at it like that because you was rhyming, you was singing. I mean, it was different to a degree, especially saying Tennessee and everyday people. But you was rapping though. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
Now, obviously, we're gonna get into these later rest of the albums where you was really rapping. You know what I'm
right,
saying?
yeah,
But you
yeah.
was still was rapping. But how did it feel that time? Because do you feel like people trying to put you guys in a box with like, like because the social conscious, pro righteous teachers, X Clan and PE. Did you kind of feel like y'all was in that kind of box or?
Yeah, I did. To be honest, I think a lot of times the music industry um, sort of divides us and puts us into certain categories in order to make sense of it. When, in my opinion, it was the umbrella of hip hop was supposed to be and always was a wide ranging,
Right.
varying thing. So, like the way from where I came from, Planet Rock was hip hop.
Mm-hmm.
Even Planet Patrol was hip hop from where I came from.
Mm-hmm.
Egyptian Lover was hip hop. Um, but also KRS One was hip hop, and Jungle Brothers, and LL Cool J, and Run DMC, and Jazzy
Right.
J. All of this was hip hop. So it's just this wide ranging variety of sounds was hip hop. Um, but what they did in the industry is they did start chopping it up and then making it alternative hip hop, which I didn't personally like because it what it did is it diluted the power and the creativity of what hip hop really is. So
Mm-hmm.
therefore, albums like later albums like um, what is it called? The Love Below with Andre 3000. Is
Yeah.
that what it's
Yeah.
called?
Speak about love
Yeah,
below the double
exactly.
CD.
how do you explain that album? How do you explain a miseducation of Lauryn Hill? How do you explain, you know, Whitey Ford album? You know,
Yeah, that's true.
how do you explain it when you start doing some acoustic stuff, but then you're doing some singing stuff, and then you're doing some hip? How do you explain that? And to me, it's just hip hop, but it's allowing the person to just create, to continue to create, and just go places with it. So it's, but of course, people start, sort of categorizing it, and then, they call it alternative and all that stuff. Yeah.
Did
So
that ever did that bother you at the time?
it bothered me because what it what it sort of connotated was that this is hip hop over here, and over here is some kind of alternative to that. And what I felt
Yeah,
it was just part of the movement. It's part of it. Sure, it's not the exact same as Gangstar. It's not the exact same as Wu Tang, but it's
yeah.
it's still part of it. It's part of this whole big expression that we call hip hop. To me,
I wanted to ask you that because I can understand how that would kind of irritate someone who's saying, "Look, we're just making our style, our type of hip hop, and
there you
what's
go,
wrong with that?" Because at the same time you was popping off, y'all was popping off with Arrested Development. Dr. Dre Chronic was going crazy,
without a
man.
question. Yep,
And then Snoop Dogg right after that. But at the same time, you guys had your own following, fan base, and everything like that. But it's kind of like when De La Soul came out with 3 Feet High and
3 feet
Rising and
high.
Daisy Age and all of that stuff. And
Exactly.
Jungle Brothers. I think you guys were kind of thrown in to a degree by some people into that vein.
We were, and so and see, I think the thing that people miss the point of, a lot of fans of music came on board because of Arrested Development. But back, meaning whatever style you want to call us,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people came on board to hip hop because of us, and then fell in love with Tribe, fell in love
Yeah,
with The Chronic, fell in love with NWA, fell in love with Ice Cube. And same difference with, a lot of people fell in love with Native Tongues and then fell in love with Arrested Development. So we shared a lot of fan bases. It wasn't as if you liked the Chronic, you couldn't like Arrested Development. It
absolutely.
wasn't like that. You know what I'm saying? People liked a lot of it was just different ways of expression.
Yeah, man. The more sounds made hip hop grow. It made the fan base grow. It made it more cultural into a world music.
Exactly. Like people gotta look back and say, what did Walk This Way mean for hip hop? What did Rockbox mean for hip hop? It meant a
Everything.
lot. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Because it opened a huge fan base that was into rock music and said, well, wait a minute, what is this thing called hip hop? And it
Mm.
brought them along. And that's what hip hop was very good at doing. It was almost like a river flowing that would sort of catch people in its current from a lot of different genres. And like, you know what? I want to get on this, because Beastie Boys was a punk rock band
That's
before they
right.
were a hip hop group. So it brought people on board. You know what I'm saying? Blondie, when she was
Yeah.
admiring hip hop back in the early days with Fab Five Freddy and all of that,
She helped a
when she
lot.
was she helped a lot because she was like, what's this movement going on in New York that these hip hop dudes are doing? Like, I'm interested. And she wanted to understand it. And so that it was dope. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, man. So after that amazing debut, I know you guys had a sophomore album. I think it got critically acclaimed with the commercial success at that point because you guys sold millions with the first album. The commercial success with the follow up, I don't, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, wasn't really there. And at some point, did you decide to go solo or?
Yeah, so our second album was Zingle Amaduni. It went gold. It went
Okay.
500,000 in the States, another 100 or more thousand overseas.
Mm-hmm.
And it did well. We had two gold records. We did Zingle Amaduni was gold.
Yep.
And then we had an unplugged album that we did. We were the
Yeah.
first group to do in hip hop to do a solo unplugged. If you
Right.
remember, LL did one, but he shared it with, I want to say, Light and Tribe, I believe it was. I forget. But
Mm-hmm.
they shared one together. And then we did one by ourselves. So we were the first to do that with MTV.
Got you.
Um, anyway, and then, Jay-Z would later do one with the
Yeah.
Roots.
Right.
So yeah, our Unplugged did 500. Our Zingalama Dooney did 500, and then of course our first album did 5 million if you include the
Right.
world sales. Yeah,
Right. But then after the sophomore album, didn't you make a solo? You started your solo career after that,
yeah.
didn't you?
So the group actually, after Zingalama Dooney dropped, we broke up as a group.
Right.
Not officially, like we didn't tell the press that, but internally as a group, we weren't we I put it this way, fame was taking a huge toll on us. You know, every
Yeah.
creative, it's funny, Lauren Hill just did an article recently about this. Every creative is different. You know, we're not all the same. Even if we're in the same genre of music, we
Right.
all come about our music in different ways. Where Arrested Development, we came about it in a very organic, sort of brother sister way. That's how we created music and that's how we created energy. And so when the industry got involved and it was all about, well, it was more about money and
Yeah.
um, prestige and
Hmm.
that those kind of concepts mixing with how we normally created didn't really mesh well. And so we didn't know how to create well together once we're all starting to make money, once some people were making more money than others. You know the industry.
Right.
So, you know, I was making more
I
money
do.
than anybody because I'm producing,
Right.
I'm writing most of the lyrics, I'm producing most of the beats. And when I say most, I mean like 95% of the
Right.
beats.
Right.
So obviously I'm getting publishing deals, I'm
Yep.
getting writing credits and splits that are, you know, quite different than a lot of the other members. A lot of the other members got paid the most during live performances, but not in the recording side. So they weren't seeing the same kind of monies I was seeing. Not to
Right.
mention I was getting hired to do remixes for Mariah Carey and other people. And it's like, so they're
Yeah.
seeing, so that caused a lot of tension in the group because mind you, this was our first album when this was happening. So a lot of
Yeah.
people didn't understand, including myself, didn't understand the business aspect of it too well. And so we're learning, we're doing award shows, we're touring the world, we're learning about the corporate structure of the music industry, we're learning about fame, we're making money for the first time. It's a lot of things happening all for the first time. And it was tough for us. So yeah, we broke up after Sigalamaduni. And then I started doing solo albums. And for me, the solo albums was simple. It was just me trying to stay creative.
You did
And
about eight of them, didn't you? Seven,
I
eight
think
of them.
so. Yeah, I think I did about 6 or 7, 7 or 8 solo albums. My solo records did not do well in the States. Instead, they blew up in Japan, which is that
Right. See.
relationship that I was sharing with you earlier. Japan was a special place for me where they really embraced my solo album. So I have 3 top 10 solo albums in Japan. My first solo album was just called Speech. It was self entitled,
Right.
and then my second one was called 1998 Hoopla, and my third one was called Spiritual People. All three of those were top 10 sellers in Japan, and top 10 on the chart too.
So with this, with the, I think on your solo, I mean the your debut solo, was that the one you had like Marvin said on it?
That's right. So, like Marvin Gaye said, which was
Well,
a
what was
tribute
that?
to our
What's
brother Marvin Gaye.
so cause you know, and I looked at it, I watched it again the other day, man, and your video for it, cause Marvin Gaye's my favorite artist. You know what I'm saying?
Word!
And,
Wow!
and what's going on is to me the greatest album ever, any genre. Is brilliant.
Wow! I agree with you
So
on how brilliant it is. Yeah, I do.
so when I saw that again and I would listen to the words to it, you had your own version, you know, like Marvin said. I was like, I gotta ask, I gotta ask you about that and how did you look at Marvin Gaye and that album, you know what I'm saying, in your opinion. I want to get your opinion on that.
I don't know if you noticed on that video who played drums on that. Did you see? So on the music video, Questlove was on drums. This is before the Roots was huge. And then,
Yes.
yeah, Dallas Austin, who produced TLC, he
Yeah.
produced,
Right.
Dallas Austin's a major producer. He was on
Yeah.
keys. And a
Oh,
brother
that was
named
that.
Foley,
Okay, wow.
that was Dallas Austin. And then a brother named Foley was on bass, who ended up playing bass for, well, he was playing bass at the time for Miles Davis. And a
I heard
brother,
that name.
um,
I heard the name.
yeah, yeah. Foley is an amazing
Yeah.
bass player, legendary. He played for Parliament Funkadelic. He played for Miles Davis, and then, gosh, he's escaping. But the brother that's on harp, why he's escaping me right now? He's a famous harpist. So anyway, he was on harp on that video. So yeah, I
How
had
did
a
you get
lot of,
everyone together? How did you get everyone together for that?
the Roots were sort of on the same label as us. They were on Virgin or some
Okay.
version of Virgin, and they were associated with EMI, which is a label I was on at the time. And so I got an early advance copy of the Roots first album before they ever dropped it. And
Organics.
Organics, and they gave me a copy to see what I thought about it. And they also gave me a copy of D'Angelo's album, Brown Sugar album, before it ever came out. And
Oh,
so I was hip to the Roots before they were the Roots, you know what I mean? And so I wanted Questlove, who I loved his drumming even back then. I wanted him to be in my video. So I asked him to just jump in and he did. And it was dope. And we worked together that early on. That was my first solo album. Yeah.
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 Yeah, so that Marvin Gaye thing, that was just dope seeing that because I enjoy anytime I see someone do any kind of rendition of anything Marvin or sample, you know what I'm saying, any of the songs on the album, which I know it's hard to get, you know, Marvin Gaye's estate don't play around now, you know what
They
I'm saying?
don't.
So
They don't. Yeah. In fact, the reason I did that song was the Marvin Gaye estate was doing a tribute to Marvin and asked various people to join in.
okay.
And so that's what I did. I was able to use the sample because I actually sampled "Oh, what's going on." I
Yep.
actually sampled it and threw it in my version. And then so that's what I did. And so they allowed me to use the sample, no problem. Sample clearance was good. And I released it as the first single from my solo album. Yeah.
Do you have a favorite out of your 7, 8 solo albums? Do you have a one that is your favorite?
Yeah. My favorite is Spiritual People, which wasn't released very heavily in the States, like I said, because the States didn't really gravitate to my solo career. But overseas, that was my platinum. I had that went platinum, and I did huge touring with all my albums, but that album was my biggest touring as well, where selling out shows all throughout the country of Japan. Yeah, it was really big. That Spiritual People is my favorite.
Cool, cool. So now with the group, didn't at some point early 2000s you guys got back together and started back recording albums again?
Yeah, that was. I have to credit Ishi, one of our
Uh,
dancers, for that because she called me and said, "Speech, we're not done. Like we have more to do as Arrested Development,
right.
and my solo career is blowing up by this time.
Uh,
It's a whole machinery behind my solo career. Like we rolling, and and my solo career was starting to pick up in Europe as well. So then she was like, "We should do Arrested Development," and I agreed. I was like, "You know what? We should bring it back together." Headliner decided not to join back, but we
mm,
had a good conversation, and he just decided not to do it. Tari decided not to join back, so then it was just me, Ishi Raz, and Baba OJ,
hmm
and we did an album called Heroes of the Harvest, and we
hmm
released that only in Japan. So we started licensing. So like a lot of talk in recent times with Drake about licensing albums.
Right,
Um, you know, I was doing that decades ago. So I was licensing instead of signing deals where they made the album and paid me in advance. I
right.
made the album, I did the artwork, I mixed it, mastered it, did everything, sent it to them and let them rent it, license it for a certain amount of years, and then it always reverts back to me. And I started doing that with all of my solo material. And I also did it with the Arrested Development albums from then on. Like we
Is it,
haven't signed with a
that,
major since then.
is the if I pronounce it incorrectly, just correct me. The vagabond or something like that, or
Vagabond is my record label and my company, my production company. Yeah,
right. So you did. Y'all had multiple. Well, y'all have multiple albums on that label. Correct, if I'm not mistaken. Right. I
that's
thought I
right.
saw
Every
that.
single since 2020, I mean since 2000, every record
Oh,
that I've done, whether it's solo or not, has been under my label Vagabond, and we just sort of pipeline everything that I do creatively through that.
was that something you was working on prior to you releasing your debut album?
Yeah, I was. In fact, I started Vagabond because when Arrested Development blew up, I told you my father was a master entrepreneur and my mother was a master publisher. And so
Right.
my mother left Milwaukee to support Arrested Development. She moved to Atlanta and she helped me buy my first home and paid for things
Gotcha.
outright so that I was doing great business moves to where if the career didn't work for the long term, I still had some foundational things.
Yep. Yep.
And she helped me set that up right. My father ended up moving down here too. And so um yeah, Vagabond was part of the sort of putting our heads together as my mom and dad and myself to
Man, the
determine
blend of
what's the
great
best
parents,
business
man.
move. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
the blessings of great parents, knowledgeable parents, parents
Yep.
who came up in a time of, look, we need to own our own and
That's
develop
exactly right.
generational wealth and things of the nature, man. So you was very fortunate, man, to have those type of parents.
Exactly, bro. I was very fortunate. You know, it's funny because that is what I believe God created the family unit for, is for you to have that same kind of support that I had. So while I know it's fortunate because unfortunately a lot of people don't have that, I believe that that's the way God wanted it for all of us. And that unfortunately, a lot of systemic things have broken
Right,
up our families over
right,
centuries of time
right.
and caused a lot of dysfunction in our
Some
communities.
by
But
design, some by not so, but you know what I mean.
you know, I know. So that's so I'm grateful. Put it that way. I'm grateful.
Man, you know what? A few years ago, and like we said before we start recording, we had interacted some, on social media,
Yep.
but around 2000 and I think 24, when you guys had the Bullets in the Chamber album,
Bullets in the chamber. Yeah.
somebody said, man, Arrested Development new album is dope. I like Arrested Development. I haven't heard any new music from them in a while, but I know they still touring and I know they do that. Like, no, man, you need to listen to that new Arrested Development album. You know what I'm
Word up.
saying? And when I listened to it, and I was like, yo, this taking me back to the 90s. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
it was a strong album, man. Like, and I want to get to the one after that because that's the one I'm still rocking hard. But the Bullets in the Chamber album, what was the mindset going in? Did you have a certain kind of focus going into that album, man? You wanted to sound a certain kind of way, or more
You
modern,
know,
or more old school, or what?
so I'll tell you know, to be honest with you, that was Bullets in the Chamber was the third album of a series of albums where yes, I met a dude named Kafiga, a producer out of the UK, a
Okay,
boom bap producer. He used to work with Chuck D as well. He worked
okay,
with a brother named Jahi, who's part of the Public Enemy crew right now, even.
mm-hmm.
And um, and I met him, and me and him started chopping it up musically and just conceptually. And I said, dude, I love the music soundscapes that you create. And so we
Mm-hmm.
started creating things together. And the first album we did was in 2020, and that was during COVID. And we released an album called Don't Fight Your Demons. And I say we, meaning
Okay,
Arrested Development, we released the album, but me and Configure were executive producers of all the songs. So we were trying to go for a more boom bap style, um,
right,
traditional style of album. And then that really went well, bro. Like for the first time since 2000, Arrested Development albums was getting heads to turn their head. Like, yo, what's
yeah,
this? And that was in 2020. And then 2021, we dropped another album called For the F and Love, which had Big Daddy Kane on it, Master Ace,
right,
Fat Man Scoop, rest in peace, Fat Man, um,
mm-hmm.
and uh, Moni Love. It had so many people on it. It was an incredible record. And then the record you're talking about, Bullets in the Chamber, was our third one. And
Right.
that one was
So that
incredible
was a
too.
trilogy, right? That was a series.
That was a series, exactly.
Okay,
And then the
gotcha.
last album we just did, which is called Adult Contemporary Hip Hop, we just
Yeah,
released that last year. That was 2025.
absolutely.
And that one as well was part of this. Now it's more than a trilogy, but it's 4 albums
No,
in.
yeah,
Yeah.
man. One, so I was very pleased, obviously, with the Bullets joint. But man, when I heard that adult contemporary hip hop, that's the one that blew me away. Where the rhyming on the you and your other partner,
One Love. Yeah, One Love is my partner. Yeah.
One Love, the way y'all was kind of in sync with each other, kind of remind me, kind of how we think about the Roots when it was Black
Yep.
Thought Malik B. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
So,
Exactly.
so
Yep.
I was like, I hadn't heard you rhyming like that. And I mean, I heard some other albums and I
I
thought
hear
you was
you.
doing the thing, but this last one, man, it's just first of all, it felt like a 1993 boom bap album. It sounded like
It
some
did.
native tongues or
Yeah.
something like that. So that's what drew me in because I love early 90s boom bap, but I didn't expect for Arrested Development albums
Yeah.
to sound like that, right? So then I started telling some of my homies, I was like, yo, I'm gonna send you the link to this Arrested Development album. They're like, Arrested Development. I said, no, they rhyming, bro. It's some 90s boom bap. And they didn't
Yeah.
believe it. And when cats heard it, they started hitting me like, yo, I ain't expected to sound like that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
I was like,
yeah.
I didn't either. And I think I might have told y'all online
You
before, like,
did.
yo, yeah, no doubt. And I started making sure I
You
was
and Rob
sharing it.
Markman. You and Rob Markman hit me up, and both of y'all
Yeah.
was giving love, and which I appreciate. By the way, I appreciate that.
Oh yeah, no,
Um,
no question, man.
yeah.
Cause Rob had said to me, and shout out to Rob Markman. Rob was like, "Yo, you
Shout
know
out.
who underrated, man? Arrested Development." I said, "Dude, I've been on them lately," and I said, "I've been retweeting y'all music, you know what I'm saying, and stuff like that,
Yeah,
man." But I want to get to, like, man, I wrote down this song, "Live Forever," bro,
yeah,
and that
yeah.
pulsate and that forward.
Yep. Forward ever. Yeah,
Forward ever, man. Like those are
yeah.
my three standout. That's probably my three standout songs on the album. I love the intro also, and like that joint, "Baby Yes" or whatever. I mean, I love the album, but those are the
Thank
joints
you.
that
Thank
really
you.
the way the production really sounded like some Q-Tip, man, and some boom bap ninth one, all that kind of jazz,
No
man. So
doubt. No doubt.
yeah,
Shout out to Ninth Wonder. Shout out to Q-Tip. It's funny, bro, because when you're a group that's been around for almost 40 years, because we've been out for
yeah,
probably 37 years. I want to say 30, 35, 37 years, somewhere in there. And the thing is like you have a choice to make as the sounds change in hip
yeah,
hop. Do you basically, I'll put it this way, I'll use an analogy. Do you want Stevie Wonder, if he was to release an album today, do you want Stevie to come out with trap beats and try to be, like, and get
right,
maybe you know 40 or somebody to produce the record for him? Or do
right,
you want
right,
Stevie to come out with some old school Stevie Wonder with old school sounds, you know what I'm saying? And like come out with some vintage sounds and just bring that soul back that he was so known for. Every artist has a choice of how you want to navigate the new
right.
landscape that you find yourself in. And that's what we had a decision, and we decided, look, we want to stick with the soundscape of the 90s, but still make it updated. We're going to talk about things that's happening now. We don't
Right.
want to make it just nostalgic, but there is a certain way of
Yeah.
approaching music that the 90s did, and we want to keep that, but we want to still make it a fresh record.
So,
So
and I love when acts do that because it's we grew with the music. You know what I'm saying? It's a
yeah,
part of our, music is
yeah.
a timestamp, different eras of timestamp in your life. You know what I'm saying? So for
Facts.
you guys to go back to an earlier sound, it's for our age anyway. You did,
It
if
is.
you if younger
That's it.
fans jump on your last few albums, that's great. But
Yep,
we grew up together in music. You feel what I'm saying? So me
I
hearing that,
do.
I'm like, I didn't expect Arrested Development have music like that, especially when I think about my idea of you guys was Tennessee, everyday
Yep,
people, right? So I'm thinking you
exactly.
always been socially conscious from your
Yep,
personal life to politics to all the things you've done in your personal life outside of music. You always been
yeah.
had the awareness because you grew up with the awareness in your bloodline. You know what I'm
That's
saying?
facts. That's facts.
So,
Yeah.
so right, right. So I was glad that you guys made that, but I saw the growth too because from 1992 to 2025, yeah, you guys have displayed so many different sounds and styles. Like you're not
That's
in a
so true,
box,
bro.
really.
No, we're not. And you know, I'm proud of us because first of
Yeah.
all, as an MC, I purposely worked on my pen. Like I purposely wanted to exercise
Right.
and train my pen so that it would become more potent as the times came on.
Yeah.
So I mean, and then I think second of all, Arrested Development was one of those, our trajectory in the music industry was one of those scenarios where we sort of got shortcutted because our second album didn't do as well. And then we broke up. So
Right.
we didn't get a chance to really complete the story of who we are as a group. So
Right.
like if you think about Tribe, for instance, their first album was way more experimental. And if they would have stopped at that first album, the Travels album,
Yeah.
then we wouldn't have known what was about to happen with the like Midnight Marauders and gosh, Low
And you would
Income.
have never
You know what I'm
known
saying?
we wouldn't got Fife Dog either. Because Fife was
We never would have
basically
known how dope Fight Dog was. We never would have known what's the other brother that really showed his skills on the last album. Think We
Jerobi.
Got It From Here. Jerobi. We never would have known. So I think my point is that a lot of times you need to let groups show you what's all in there. It's already there, but
Yeah.
they need a few albums to express all of that. There's a lot of stuff that they need to
Yeah.
express over time. It doesn't happen in one album. A lot of groups. Some groups it does, but some groups it doesn't happen. Like an Outcast. I give another example for them. We would have
Mm-hmm.
never knew. Andre 3000 had that much experimentation in him. You know what I'm saying? Like,
If it would have
you know,
stopped
that
at selling player listing, you wouldn't have known.
if it would have stopped, exactly right. So
Even if it stopped at ATL, we wouldn't have known.
we never would have known, bro. Like this stuff had to happen over time, and you realize this was always in him, but it just had, it took some layers, and like a peeling an onion, it took some time to figure out for him to figure out what's all in there. You know what I mean?
So for you guys last, like, let's say 4 or 5 albums, you had that series and stuff like that. In your mind, was we making a conscious effort to go back to the '90s and to get some of your '90s affiliates like the Big Daddy Kane's, Mona Love? That was all by design.
All by design, bro. Like the reaction you had to, like, for instance, the Bullets album, and
Yeah,
then our now album, our latest album, Adult Contemporary.
yeah,
That's what we wanted. We wanted that. Like we were
right.
shooting for that aim, is to get brothers like yourself and others who turn their head again towards us so that we could continue to tell our story to y'all, and not just to y'all, but you know what I'm saying, like to the
Yeah,
music fans out
absolutely.
there, like tell our story. And that's what our tour is doing right now. Like
Yeah,
we're doing a lot of them songs from Bullets in the Chamber and from Adult Contemporary. We're doing these songs live as well, and it's like a lot of people come up to us after the show and it's like, I came here for the nostalgia, like to rock Tennessee, but now I'm leaving here and I'm
yeah,
feeling like y'all have like influences of like Mob Deep and some of this stuff. Y'all got influences
yeah.
of Q-Tip. Is like I didn't expect to get that when I came here, and then they're leaving there with a totally different experience, which is what we wanted, and we're grateful for that.
Nah, man, that was dope because you literally took me personally back to that time. Because, like I said, when I listened to the Adult Contemporary again this week, like I said, I heard some Tribe, I heard some Daylight, I heard some Jungle Brothers, I heard like all these different '90s, that whole little era. And it was funny when you said you always want to keep working on your pen. And KRS One used to always say the real hip hop is over here. You know what I'm saying? But
Yep,
then your last couple of albums, that was that sound that somebody like him would be like, that's hip hop. You get what I'm
yep,
saying?
yep. Oh,
Not
without a
saying your
doubt. When I
earlier
worked,
music wasn't.
no, no, no doubt. Like Karis One and I worked together a lot, and it's been a minute since we've done things together. But we used to work together a lot. Me, him, and Kane was on tour together,
Okay.
and that's one of the things that he would often say is like, "Yo, the sound that you guys are doing, Arrested Development is doing, is growing. Like I'm starting to get it where y'all are coming from." And
Yeah.
he started to understand where we was coming from more and more. It is growing on it, which is dope. I'm proud to say that.
So any other like I mean, I know you guys tour all the time, but you have any other destinations in the very near future?
Yeah, I mean we're about to do South Carolina, Atlanta. Um, we're doing Chicago coming up, and we're doing Virginia. So a lot of that, and then we're going back overseas. We're doing the UK and all throughout
Yeah.
Europe, and so yeah, we're about to hit France and a lot of these major
Man,
markets
ain't no
this
love for
year.
NC, man. Come on, what are we doing, man?
So I know. So it's funny because I told you I was talking to Kane, and Kane lives in North Carolina now. Um,
Yeah, he
we are
live in
doing South Carolina.
Wake Forest, I believe.
Exactly. And so we're doing South Carolina, but we haven't worked out Carolina just yet.
Yeah.
Last time we did North Carolina, I think, was 2 New Years ago. So 2 years ago, we did North Carolina. Us and
Where
Diggable
you remember
Plants. Yeah.
where oh word, where were y'all at in North Carolina?
I think we was in Fayetteville, actually, North
Well,
Carolina.
y'all was
Yeah.
down, well, y'all was in the cut
Yeah, we was in the cut, and we brought in the new year there with Diggables. Yeah.
in the Ville. Yeah, that's
Can you
that's
hear me?
that's 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 J. Cole little area, man, in the Ville, bro. You
Exactly.
know what I'm
In the
saying?
Ville. That's J. Cole's area. Yep. Yep. Definitely. I was
So
hoping J.
it's
Cole
for
would be at the show.
yeah. So right, I mean, you just had an album just came out last year, man. But so right now, y'all gonna just ride these last few albums for a while and tour and everything. No more no new albums right now in the near future, or just
I would say we probably will drop something in 2027, because right now, more than ever, because I was deeply inspired by the new Drake album, pen
okay.
wise. I felt like Drake really,
Which one, Iceman?
Iceman, yeah, in
Okay,
particular. I felt like he really increased his pen and
okay,
came back came back from a very hard place. Like his 2024 was probably the hardest in his career. And for him to come back with such a widely acclaimed and of course sales wise acclaimed two album really inspired me to work on
Okay.
my pen even more. So like that's one of the things that I want to do for this next album. And it inspired me to pick back up the mantle of that melodic rhyme, which
Right.
I believe I started. So, I wanted to really bring that back into my holster in a sense. Speaking of bullets and chambers. So yeah, like that's
Yeah.
that's that's the goal. It's 2027, I think, you know.
All right, so usually, no doubt. So usually, I always, especially when it's artists I talk to, gotta ask you like your top five favorite few things, right? So I want to ask you your five favorite MCs, your five favorite albums, and then your five favorite beats because you're a producer, man. So if we could just start with your five favorite MCs. What, no matter what era or whatever, who would they be?
That's a great question. I never thought about it deeply, but I'll just come up with who comes to my
Oh yeah,
mind
no doubt.
first. Chuck D is one of my favorite MCs because of what he brought to the table, and how he brought it. Um, Two would be, I would have to say De La, uh,
Okay,
Us, and Trugoy
no
because
doubt.
of again how they decided to bring their stuff to the table. It was just very unorthodox, very
Yeah, it
different.
was. But
They
dope
got to be
MCs.
in there, and incredibly dope MCs. And then I gotta say LL Cool J, same difference. Just the passion he brought to the
Yeah,
table from the Crush Groove scene, but even
yeah,
before that, just
no
on his
doubt.
actual records, Rock the Bells and all of the early stuff, I
Right,
Need a Beat, all of that stuff. He
right.
just brought a certain energy to the table that I just always love. Um, I'd say Run from Run DMC in particular. I love DMC, but Run to me always had an incredibly unique style of rhyming.
He's my
Um,
first favorite rapper.
yeah, like my name is Run, my son, the number one for fun. Like that's
Yeah,
great verse. Like he brought a style to hip hop that I felt was
suck
just
MCs.
sucker MCs. I mean, incredible
Woo,
work.
woo.
And so I have to include him. And then for lack of time, I would say Drake. I love Drake's what he's brought to the game.
Okay.
Yeah. So those are the five I'd say right now. If I hit five, I think I hit five.
Nah,
Yeah.
you did now five five favorite beats, man. Like do you have because I did a list not too long ago about like the 25 like greatest hip hop beats because I like doing lists and having fun with that just for conversation purposes, man. But you've been a
You do a
producer.
great job at that. You do a great job at that, man.
Well, thanks, man. I appreciate that, brother. But yeah, five beats that come to mind when you think of when you think about dope production.
Well, I'll tell you this. For me, I more so would probably say producers because
Okay.
to me, the Bomb Squad is
Yeah.
irreplaceable. What they brought to
Whew.
hip hop to me was literally a wall of sound. No pun intended from what Q-Tip was saying with his last
No
record, but
question.
like it was a wall of sound, and they're just impeccable to me. And then to me, the Neptunes, Pharrell, the
Okay.
Neptunes brought some absolutely incredible production to the table.
They
So I'd
did.
have to say them. To me, Premier brought a certain rawness to the table that cannot be underestimated, and it can't be replaced to me. It's just
And he's from
incredible.
Texas and made a New York boom bap
Exactly,
type career.
exactly. From Texas, moved to New York with like, and just brought to me the most New York sound ever in hip
It's
hop.
crazy.
It's
It's crazy.
crazy. And then I have to say, like, of course, Dre. Beats
Yeah.
by his earlier beats was just the
It's
sonic,
incredible.
the level of quality that he brought to hip hop, the
His engineering
sonics,
is nuts.
his engineering, and the simplicity and just I don't know the effectiveness of what he did to me is
Yeah.
outrageous. And then, as you could tell, I'm a Drake fan, so I'd have to say 40 and what he brings to the
Okay.
table. Just this that whole underwater sound, this whole mixture
Yeah.
of R&B samples backwards and forwards, along with minimalism with the beats is something. And it's hard to do only five, but I think I said five. But I'd
You
have to
know what?
include Q-Tip in there because I mean, of
Yeah.
course, what he brought to the table with Tribe is just it's unmistakable.
I think it's dope that you like Drake like that because a lot of people think that someone that make a certain style of hip hop won't like Drake. You know what I'm saying? But I always tell
Yeah,
people Drake a hip hop head. And people coming for my head for that. I'm like, when he came out with his mixtapes before he blew up on So Far Gone, he was rhyming with Fontaine Elzile on Ninth Wonder beats. He
little
was
brother, exactly.
he
Like
was he looked up to Little Brother. He looked up you know
exactly,
he looked up to Slum Village. He looked up to all these kind
exactly.
of groups at the
Yeah,
time, man. So when people say he's not hip hop, I kind of laugh at that because a lot of quote unquote hip hop heads come at me for that all the time. I'm like, this guy is a rapper first. He
no,
just
no
had
doubt
a lot
about
of
it.
other skills and a lot of other music talent. So he expanded his sound because why wouldn't you when you got a full package that you can have the guys, the females, everything. You're supposed to be doing all of this. So I think it's dope that you appreciate him, the fact that you come from a socially conscious background and then you still making this kind of hip hop right now. A lot of people would probably think that somebody like you wouldn't rock with somebody like Drake. They would think that it's gonna be like the social conscious of To Pimp a Butterfly from Kendrick. Not saying you
Sure.
don't love that. I'm just saying
I
people would
love
think that
that
first.
album is amazing. Pimp a Butterfly is amazing. Yeah, no, those I do respect it. I think people are because on my page I talk about Drake a lot, and I get a lot of hate,
Yeah, I know.
and so I think people are surprised. But if they only knew who I am and where I come from, so I come from Milwaukee, which is a small town in the Midwest. Drake comes from Toronto. People want to understand that there's a certain affinity I have towards the outsiders,
Yeah,
people that had to break through into a scene that didn't necessarily want them to be a part of it initially.
right.
I have an affinity towards that. Like how some people have an affinity towards the underdog, no matter who it is. I have an affinity towards people who broke in from the outside. So to me, a lot of the people you'll hear me mention have that same thing in common. You know, um, Dayla coming from Long Island, if I'm not mistaken, I think Long
Yeah,
Island.
Long Island.
Uh, they weren't from the heart of like
Right.
Manhattan
They
or
went from the
Harlem or Brooklyn.
boroughs.
They weren't from the boroughs, right? So they came from the outside. Same difference with Public Enemy. They were sort of outsiders coming in.
Mm-hmm.
That's just a lineage that I tend to respect because I lived that life. That's the life I lived in hip hop. So I respect when other people have done that. So Drake, that's one of the things that I just like. And then the vulnerability of Drake I like because that's my rhymes. If you hear,
Yeah.
you know, a lot of my rhymes are talking personal
Right.
experiences. And so Drake does that very well. Like he'll talk about his personal life. So it happens to be that. Even if it's not socially conscious per se, it's definitely personal and vulnerable. And that just sort of resonates with my heart.
All right, man. Before I let you go, your 5 favorite albums, man. You gotta drop that, and I give you a minute to think about it. I'll tell you mine real quick. My favorite rap album is Midnight Marauders, by Tribe Called Quest. I mean, I think it's like
Oh,
one of the top 5 rap albums ever to me. You know what I'm
yeah.
saying? Uh, Nas, Illmatic, Outkast, AT Aliens. I might go with Goody Mob Soul Food. I think that's like one of the most perfect representations of the South when I think about just the Southern living, the Southern religion, spirituality, the way we eat. I just think Goody Mob did a flawless job on Soul Food. Um, and I might go now with Life After Death with Biggie, man. I've been on that one for the last about 6 months more than ever, man. So those might be my 5 favorite right there.
That helps me a lot. I would say, and I haven't thought about this deeply, so I'll just go off the
Right, right,
top
right,
from
right.
what I think right now. Right now, I would say it takes a nation of millions to hold us back. Public Enemy.
Hmm.
I would say um, maybe Hard to Earn, Gangstar. I
That's
would
a hard one,
say,
boy. Woo.
yeah, I would say um, 3 Feet High and Rising, Daylight. I would say
Hmm.
uh, that's three. I would say um, I'd have to say one of the Drake albums. I have to give him one of those. It's my favorite albums. Which
Would it be
one?
Take Care?
I would probably say Nothing Was the Same. So I'll give
Okay.
him that. And then five, which is again, this is hard for me because I hadn't thought about it deeply, but um, I would go with Jungle Brothers, and I would say probably Done by the Forces of Nature. So those would be my
Okay.
five if I had to go off the top. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, that's. I had to throw you on the spot real quick. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah,
I try to catch people all the time, man. But look, brother, obviously it's a pleasure, man. You know what I'm saying? Because like I said, we've talked on social media, but not actually in person like this, man. So it's all good, man. Hopefully, at some point in the future, man, we can definitely catch up again, brother. You know what I'm
no
saying?
doubt.
It's an honor, man, and anything, man. Like you said, you guys got tours going on. Anything else going on right now, real quick, or outside of
Yeah,
the
yeah.
tours? Or,
Everybody should go to arresteddevelopmentmusic.com. Check out everything we're doing. We're selling merch. We got the new albums.
okay,
We got the old albums, of course, and we got our tour dates there. But then also, I want to salute you because I've been peeping you for a minute online, and I see the role that you play in hip hop, and I love it because you oftentimes bridge the gap between a lot of what the new generation feels about hip hop and the older generations feel about hip hop. And
appreciate that.
whether I agree with every take or not, I love your passion for the art and I love your scope of time of how you cover it. Like you're able to say from experience the things that have happened in the past and the things that are happening now, and you keep the conversation going, which I think is important. A lot of hate to call you a pundit, but like a lot of
I know what you
whatever you
mean.
want to call it, influencers or people that are talking about hip hop often take sides in a way that
Right.
alienates whole generations of people or alienates anybody that might have a different perspective. Whereas I feel like you strive to, you know, at least pull it together to some extent, even though you might have a viewpoint, a definite viewpoint, you still try to pull it together. And I always appreciated that, man, about you. So yeah, I salute you. I was looking forward to us doing something like this, and I appreciate it.
Yeah. Yeah, man,
Yeah,
I appreciate you saying that. I appreciate the kind words, and that is my angle, man, because I love the culture more than anything. I love the music, man. I love every region, every
yeah,
era. I can find
yeah.
something in each one of them I like, just like I can find something in each one of them that might not be my thing, but I won't knock it because
Right,
it's somebody else's thing. And
right. Exactly. Yeah.
that's the beautiful thing about hip hop, man. But look, episode 100 is done. I got a chance to do episode 100 with a legend in
Salute.
the culture, man. You know what I'm saying? So good people, we out of here.
We
Peace.
out. Peace.